Hey everyone, I'm here to respond to another episode of Angry Video Game Nerd or James Wolf's What's Bullshit episodes. Now the last one I responded on was his take on DVDs. Now I want to talk about his take on sequels. Now I talked about this recently, but when he did one 3 years ago, it's chronically confused on how it kind of differs, with all the names and everything. Well, he talked about some sequels that have been, some movies that are sequels coming out in this past year and in the past couple of years. He talked about one movie called The Final Destination. As we all know, Final Destination had 3 movies before it. Final Destination, Final Destination 2, Final Destination 3, and now Final Destination 4, or as they call it, The Final Destination. Well, I want to kind of explain something to James and to everybody that probably doesn't understand this. Sometimes when a sequel comes out with the word "the" in it, or a word that's similar to that, it means in this case, with The Final Destination, what that means is this is the last movie. True, there might be other sequels and all that, but this is the last movie, probably in this timeline, if you will, with these characters. Probably the last time. Probably the last one, because this is The Final Destination. If they said it was Final Destination 4, people would expect a sequel. If they say The Final Destination, well, you get the idea. That means that's it. It's over. Now he mentioned the Sylvester Stallone movies like Rambo and Rocky. Of course, Rambo coming out is just going to be Rambo, because the others were different. This Rambo is basically, sometimes when you do a sequel, sometimes it's to introduce a new generation to the character. I mean, you just can't say, oh, here's Rambo 4. Because some people won't get it. Some of the new generation will be like, Rambo 4? I've never heard of Rambo. Were there other Rambos? I don't know. Because some may not know about the Rambo movies. The same with the Rocky series. Rocky 6, which is Rocky Balboa, some may not know about the other Rocky movies. And they hear it from the other generation. And if they see something that comes out and says Rocky 6, they'll be like, Rocky 6? How many Rockies was there before that? And if they find out that there were Rocky movies dating back to the mid to late 70s, to them it's like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. They've been doing the series since then? Because to the new generation now, it's like, when you do a movie, and you do sequels, it's gotta be a movie that's a part of their generation, not something from the past, like the 70s and 80s. I mean, if you're gonna do a movie like that, it's gotta be a remake. It's gotta be a remake. That's for this generation. I mean, us growing up in the 80s and 70s, we understand. And what's going on. Instead of calling it Rocky 6, Rocky Balboa is basically saying, okay, here's this character, it's called Rocky Balboa. It's about a boxer who's making a comeback. That's all it is to them. That's all it is to this new generation. To people like us, though, we understand the story. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? When a sequel like Rambo 4, which is just Rambo, and Rocky Balboa, which is Rocky 6, come out, it's basically under the titles of Rocky Balboa and Rambo. Even though it's a sequel to us, it's basically an introduction to the new generation that don't know about these characters, that don't know about these movies. It's an introduction to them, so they can gain interest and then probably look on the internet if there's any more. And when they go on the internet and find out that there's been more in the past, it makes them want to see it. So that's what these sequels without numbers are. Basically, introduction. It's true. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, what about the new Transformers movie? It's supposed to be Transformers 2, not Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. That is true, but we all know it's Transformers 2. That's our generation. We all know that. And the Revenge of the Fallen, well, that's a new spin on things. We finally find out what's really going on. We know it's Transformers 2. I mean, Revenge, when you put Revenge in the name, it's obviously a sequel. We know that. Now, as far as Fast and Furious goes, true, the Fast and the Furious series came out in this past, during this current generation and everything. But you can't just say the Fast and the Furious 4, because to some people it don't make sense. Like the Fast and Furious 4, Fast and Furious. Basically, that's saying, oh, it's Fast, it's Furious, it's basically the sequel. You don't. When you put the Fast and Furious, that's an sometimes, like I said about the Final Destination, sometimes the word the is like an introduction. It's like saying, this is the Fast and Furious. Here's the sequel to Fast and Furious. Here's Fast and Furious 3, Tokyo Drift. And now here's Fast and Furious. That's it. You don't need to explain anything else. I know it's unusual and it's a little confusing, but that's how things work. Fast and Furious is basically Fast and Furious 4. They just took out the and just said Fast and Furious. That's it. Basically what I'm saying is sometimes when you have a sequel, you don't always need a number, because the word itself or the title itself kind of explains what the sequel is, what number it is. In the case of the Final Destination, yeah, to us it's Final Destination 4. But instead of saying here's Final Destination 4, let's call it the Final Destination, because sometimes that's the ending of the franchise or the ending of a timeline in that franchise. Get what I'm saying? I hope you do. And that's all I can say in my response to Jane Wolf's Angry Video Game Nerds What's Bullshit Episode 12 on the sequels. I hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, peace out.